So hopefully you read this here and you thought about how externalities are working. And I'll just kind of underline what I think is the biggest key here. Actually, I'm going to put a bracket around because I don't want to underline so much. But from there to here, it's probably the biggest idea that for certain activities or the production or consumption of certain goods or products, or even services, I suppose, come with added benefits or added cost for people that have absolutely nothing to do with a particular transaction. And you might think, like, well, how could this be? And hopefully when I give you some examples here in a second, you'll start to see this. Now, the way we're going to do this in a second is we're going to graph. And the biggest thing that I want you to remember is that your supply curve represents your cost, and your demand curve represents the value of something or the benefit that people place upon a particular good or service. So demand curve, think benefits. Supply curve, think cost. Now, this is how your book, or this guy, his name is Morton, he's the guy, he's like the godfather of AP economics, has you think about cost and benefits. And he uses this terminology here. Notice these two formulas are the same as these ones up here. And that brings me to what we got to talk about next, which is the difference between private cost, social cost, private benefit, social benefit. And so we're going to look at that right now. So let's go look here. So in the next page in your packet should look like this. Well, except for you have to write this in. So the private benefit, when we're talking about private benefits, we're talking about what I personally get out of this. So whether it's the satisfaction of eating the hamburger, or what I personally get as far as being a seller, and you can think of it in monetary terms, but the benefit that I receive, or the cost is just the cost that I give up. So the cost in terms of time, perhaps, or energy, or in terms of monetary cost as well. Those would be private costs. Now, public costs are virtually the same. I'm going to actually just copy and paste this here. And the only thing that I'm going to change about it is, instead of what I personally receive or give up, I change this now. It's not me personally, but this is now what everyone in a society gives up or receives. Okay? It's not just about one person. Now, a couple of things to note here. Sometimes the terminology between our textbooks and the AP test can throw us off here a little bit. Sometimes your public benefit described as a social benefit, all right? Which it shouldn't throw you off. I'm trying to think right now. I think that you prefer social on the AP test, but I'm not 100% sure. You can see either or. They're the same thing. Now, the one distinction that Mr. Morton uses over here is he says that the private cost added to the social cost give you the total cost. Most of the time, how people treat this is that your public cost, your social cost, what everyone receives or gives up, they treat this like it is in fact your total cost. All right? Where Mr. Morton here makes a distinction, and we don't make that distinction. Okay, and we'll see that in just a second here. So what we need to do now is we need to talk more specifically, because we have two types of externalities. We have positive and we have negative here. So a negative one, you notice here, puts a cost on someone else. Positive one provides a benefit to someone else. So essentially what I'm going to make you do now is you're going to go over to this slide right here, and we're just going to put like real brief descriptions of our positive and negative externalities. So I'm actually going to pause and then write them, and then you'll just see them here, and I'll talk a little bit then. So there's added benefits, we just said that, to people that aren't necessarily involved in these transactions. So you could say that your total benefit exceeds your private benefit, so what the society as a whole gets is greater than what the individuals get. So a lot of times, again, you see the total benefits or the social, and I don't know why I'm writing this with my mouse, but I am. Social benefits exceed private benefits. And again, thinking in an additional way, you can also consider that the society is getting this benefit, and it doesn't have to pay for it. That's the beauty of this thing. Wow, that sounds like it's awesome, right? I get a great benefit, my life is improved, and I pay none of the cost. So positive externalities are kind of cool little things like that people benefit even though they don't, and a lot of times they don't even realize they're benefiting. So we're going to talk about some examples here in a second that to help you think about whether something is a positive or a negative externality. But before I do that, let's now talk about negative externalities. And it's very simple here. We're going to take this, I'm going to copy and paste it. Any idea how I'm going to change it? Well, here we said that we have added cost. So instead of total benefits right here, right? We're going to take that and we're going to take out our benefits and we're going to substitute cost. All right, I'm going to pause and do that so you don't have to watch me struggle. So again, this situation we have added cost, so the total cost exceeds what individuals pay. So no longer here, people not involved in this transaction, they're not getting a benefit now. They're paying a cost. It is hurting them. All right. So in this sense, it doesn't, not that society receives a benefit. Society is not receiving a benefit. They are paying a cost, but receiving no benefit. And this doesn't sound quite as great. This doesn't sound quite as cool. This sounds like I'm walking down the street and I'm getting hit with something that's not particularly good, which actually brings up an interesting, actually no, I'm not going there yet. I'm not going there yet. My instinct was to go there. What I would like you to do, I have two examples on the next slide, I believe, or on the next slide in this sequence here. And I would like you to take a look at these two here. And just based on what you've heard me talk about and what we've written down in our notes, see if you can figure out which do you think is a positive, which is a negative. Maybe they're both positive, maybe they're both negative. Try that for me right now. We'll pick up there in the next video.